Support for KVAQ-TV comes from the Bronzeville Historical Association and its latest exhibit, the Fiesta y Cultura exhibit at the Costumes of the Americas Museum in Bronzeville celebrates the vibrant colors and rich traditions of Charro Days. Through historical photographs and vibrant textile colors, visitors can learn about the history and culture of this celebration. The new exhibit features traditional costumes from the different regions in Mexico collected by local residents. Fiesta y Cultura is on display through June 7th at 1004 East 6th Street in Bronzeville. Museum hours are Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Coming up, a student who has nearly hit cycling home is speaking up. More on what he has to say.
Plus, a local artist shares his experience on American Idol. Details ahead.
And a South Padre Island sanctuary is a pit stop for many migratory birds. More on how they're helping.
KVAQ-TV starts now. Hey vaqueros, welcome back. This is the 14th spring edition of KVAQ-TV. I'm Tristan Cortez.
And I am Dathan Thervino.
A close call for a UTRGV student cycling home from class last month. Now that student is warning others to be on the lookout and to share the road. Monica Chavez with the details.
It happened right here on the corner of 107 and Sugar Road. Business marketing junior Andrew Nieto was cycling down this intersection when a car turned right, nearly hitting him. Nieto is now alerting everyone to be mindful on the road.
107, also called University Road. They have a really wide bicycle shoulder, but it's not protected. There's hardly any signs that show you that or state that it's a bicycle lane, and a bunch of cars like to merge into it in order to turn into like the parking lot or like to turn into streets.
It's a bicycle lane on paper, but on the road, it's a different story. Business marketing junior Andrew Nieto says he has seen vehicles brake suddenly along the bike lane to avoid cyclists and pedestrians. He warns if there is a cyclist, drivers should give them space. Nieto says the solution is to have the community advocate for cyclist safety in partnership with the school, the city, and the police.
Advocate for stronger and safer bicycle and pedestrian walkways, hike and bike trails. Tell the city of Edinburgh it's time to build a protected bike lane near the campus.
Edinburgh Police Sergeant Roel Reyes says the improved shoulder on 107 lane, like this one, can be used by cars for turning, but only if it's safe to do so and can also be used to pull over for emergencies.
Don't be on your phone. Don't be doing your makeup. Don't be eating. Don't have the music too loud. You know, all those are factors that can play into not paying attention to what's going on and can lead to an accident.
Reyes reminds people on the road that you must obey traffic laws, follow speed limits, and pay attention to traffic signals. That reminder also applies to cyclists and pedestrians. Reyes says to stay off the phone and off the AirPods, and to always pay attention to your surroundings. For KVAQ-TV in Edinburgh, Monica Chavez.
Here in Texas, there are a few bicycle laws to keep in mind. Stop at red lights and stop signs. Ride in a bicycle lane if present. If a bicycle lane is not present, ride as close to the right side of the road as possible. Travel in the same direction as traffic. Use a light on the front and a red reflector or light on the back of your bike at night.
A federal agency and a Harlingen shelter talk about hurricane preparations for the predicted upcoming hurricane season. Julia Guerrero with more.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency and Harlingen's Loaves and Fishes urged the community to take proactive steps in preparing for hurricane season. FEMA Public Affairs Specialist Earl Armstrong says the state works with FEMA whenever there's activity forming in the Gulf of Mexico. The state then tells FEMA what is needed to ensure enough supplies.
After the event happens, we're going to work with the state, especially, they're going to see how bad the damage is. And then they may ask FEMA for a disaster declaration. Once
the state requests a disaster declaration, it's sent to the president for approval. FEMA will then step in with assistance or reimbursement for expenses to recover from the disaster. While FEMA helps at the national level, Harlingen's shelter, Loaves and Fishes, helps locally. Executive Director Victor Rivera says the shelter not only helps during hurricane season, but daily.
We deal with lots of different situations, whether it be weather or working with our homeless community, providing meals. Since we're basically a one-stop organization, one-stop shop, as the coin phrase, we do a lot of everything.
The shelter currently holds space for up to 30 women and 35 men, but can house more people during inclement weather.
But in the event of a hurricane, that poses a different population there. It could be anyone that has all the resources available at their home, but their home is maybe not made to sustain the winds and things like that. They come with a hurricane, so they would feel much safer going to a shelter.
The shelter is undergoing improvements, such as updating its air conditioning unit, roof renovation, and receiving a generator from an American Red Cross initiative that helps the shelter run as an official emergency resilience hub. Rivera says the improvements to the shelter will be done in time for this year's upcoming hurricane season in June. For KVAQ-TV in Edinburgh, Julia Guerrero.
A funeral home director brings another perspective to grief, loss, and mental health. Andrea Flores tells the story.
A local funeral director is advocating for loss and grief counseling to address mental health in the community. According to family funeral home director Robert Lugo, people often do not put as much importance to depression, grief, and coping until they lose someone. Lugo has been in the funeral business for 40 years, and he emphasizes it's essential to be more compassionate than just a simple, I know what you're going through. He adds the community's response to a death has changed drastically throughout the years, going from days in mourning and showing respect to a simple, I couldn't make it to the funeral but send my condolences.
Because in 3 weeks the dust settles and so do the phone calls. They stop. Everybody goes on to their lives. We're too busy, and that's the issue. We are too busy to stop and consider what that person is still going through.
Lugo says the topic of death used to be held in high regard, but is now becoming something too common, desensitizing people. Processing loss is a difficult journey that everyone deals with differently. So Lugo recommends people to prioritize their mental health.
I encourage you to go seek counseling. I like to tell that to every family, but you're going to insult a lot of them. I don't need counseling, this guy. And all of a sudden, a year later, they're dealing with a remorse that, that's just not, should have been resolved early on.
School of Social Work professor Nina Enriquez says grief makes people feel a wave of mixed emotions. Enriquez says it is important to never ignore grief feelings as they can have a major impact on a person's long-term mental health.
Eventually, you can develop one or even two mental health disorders. Anxiety is extremely prevalent for a person who is grieving, and the anxiety symptoms can intensify when we don't address the grief.
To get in contact with the support group, call 956-665-2648 or reach out to the Counseling Center, calling 956-665-2574. For KVAQ-TV in Edinburgh, Andrea Flores.
Former American Idol contestant and Valley native Brody Rivers takes the stage at UTRGV's latest Union Unplugged. Rivers started music after a friend pointed out his deep voice nearly 4 years ago. Rivers later released 2 singles and an EP titled Stepping Stones with his song Calm Me Down. He says he made it to the top 50 contestants on American Idol before getting eliminated. Rivers reflects on his time at the show and says it has changed how people view him as an artist.
I know going into music, people don't think it's a job. But after getting on that show and everything, it changed everyone's perspective. Okay, he's doing his actual job. He quit everything to do the job, and he's doing it. Rivers is back in the RGV playing music for local venues such as Mel's Honky Tonk. Now Rivers teases bigger things to come, saying he cannot disclose details yet, but he says it is most likely bigger than American Idol.
With spring taking place, not only does it cause plant life to flourish, but it's also a time for migratory birds to search for better resources. Alexandra Salazar tells us the details.
The South Padre Island Birding, Nature Center, and Alligator Sanctuary has a unique ecosystem. A naturalist educator for the center, Javier Gonzalez, says they have a dual water system, a blend of fresh and salt water. In turn, this provides a variety of migratory bird species to stop by at the sanctuary for a rest stop. Last Saturday, the center held a spring migration celebration event where they provided a presentation and tour, giving visitors a great opportunity to learn more about birds, their migratory habits, and how to help them during their journey. Gonzalez tells us birds migrate in the spring to claim the best nesting sites.
They're in a hurry. Hormones are flaring. All the birds are really bright and colorful. Fall migration is different. They're not in a hurry. They're not gonna try to nest. The nesting season's over, and they're just gonna take their time moving southward to wintering sites.
Gonzalez says because the island is centrally located, more than 200 species of birds go through South Padre Island. He explains South Padre Island is critical for migratory birds to survive a long journey.
A lot of these birds are crossing the Gulf of Mexico, coming from the Yucatan. It's like a shortcut for them. They fall right in, they're tired, they're exhausted, and they're going to be looking for sustenance to help them re-energize and keep going. Because a lot of the times, this is just about halfway. They have a long ways to go from here.
Economics freshman Fernando Vargas attended the event and expresses his interest in wildlife.
I really want to return because I heard that a lot more vibrant species of birds come here around that time, and I'd love to see more of the birds that go there.
Gonzalez says the center tries to build support for conservation. If you happen to miss this year's migration event, there is always next year. For KVAQ-TV in South Padre Island, Alexander Salazar.
Thank you for joining us. Make sure to watch us Monday through Friday on VCast monitors and social media. For KVAQ-TV for the last time, I'm Tristan Cortez.
And I am Dathan Trevino. Have a great week, vaqueros.